And thank you so much for coming out this evening. I'm Dr. Kim Heil. I'm the superintendent of this wonderful district here at Osseo Area Schools. And I thank all of you for taking time to come out, find the information. We really need your voice on this. This is just a starting point. There are no final decisions on anything that has been made. So I really appreciate you coming out and putting your voice in the room. So I also want to welcome our school board chair, Tanya Prince is here as well, and we have several administration team here, cabinet members here, and I think that's the only board member. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So today, we're going to have a lot of information to share for you. So you're going to come and you're going to leave and probably have more information than you have in the past, and you probably end up honestly having more questions as well. So that's okay. We have several ways that you'll be able to get more information and to continue to put your voice in the room. So the main thing I just want to let you know is the superintendent, once again, no final decisions made. We need all of your input and do what's best for babies. That's mind that you're sending us, your precious people, but our scholars. So we have a lot to cover this evening, and you probably see it on the slide. So once again, we're just going to share a little bit about our school district here. What is an attendance boundary? What does that actually entail? Why do we need to change attendance boundaries? What is that process, the timeline, and when will that occur? The parameters used to form that, where did that come from? Did we just pull them out of the sky? How did that come about? The proposed scenario and details surrounding them. What exactly is the transition plan for our young scholars? And then, of course, the opportunity for you to meet together in circles and give us your input and your thoughts on the first round of potential scenarios. So, Osseo Area Schools, this is my second year as Osseo Area Schools as a superintendent. And one of my goals when I came in is that I wanted to ensure that we are a very large district, but I wanted to ensure that we are one community for all. Our goal is not to just have one geographic area, but it's to help all areas. And it's also very important to me personally, and our goal of the district is to ensure all voices are valued and heard. So you're here that said quite a bit. So all voices valued and heard, what exactly does that mean for Osseo Area Schools? It means that all of our stakeholders, that means our students and our staff and our parents and caregivers and our community members, all play an important part in this district, and we acknowledge that. So you should feel seen and appreciated as a part of Osseo Area School District, whether it's today, whether it's tomorrow, or 5 weeks from now. We want you to understand that you are important to us as a district. So another foundational tool that we use here in Osseo Area Schools is a concept called holding space. And what holding space is another way that we go about seeing how everyone is valued and heard. And I know you all know how to read, but I'll just say it quickly. So what is holding space? So holding space means that we're willing to walk alongside another person in whatever journey they're on without judging them, making them feel inadequate, trying to fix them, or trying to impact the outcome. When we hold space for other people, we open our hearts, offer unconditional support, and we let go of judgment and control. So we are very transparent with us through this attendance boundary process. So tonight, we're going to enter into holding space for each other. There's no such thing as a wrong answer. There's no such thing as a wrong question. You are able to come into your authentic self. We know that it's going to be emotionally charged. We do want respect to be in the room. But please don't worry about your thoughts of how we're thinking doesn't agree with someone else at the table. We need to hear all voices. I'm totally going off script here, but I hope that's okay. So thank you in advance once again for coming this evening. Okay, what is Osseo Area Schools? We're huge. We're the 5th largest school district in the state of Minnesota. So we're just going to look at some real quick facts just for you to get kind of an idea of who we are. So Osseo Area School encompasses all parts of 8 communities. It ranges as far from Dayton to Rogers and Cochran, in the far northwest to parts of Plymouth to the south, and Brooklyn Center to the east. The 2 largest communities we serve are Brooklyn Park and Maple Grove, with the city of Osseo in the center. About 160,000 community members live within this entire area. We serve nearly about 21,000 students, and more than 15,000 of our students choose to utilize our transportation that's offered. So this equates to about 36,000 bus routes that are done daily, and we appreciate our drivers and our staff that works in transportation. So we have a total of 31 school buildings. So currently right now, we have 24 traditional elementary, middle, and high schools. We have 7 what we call special program sites, including area learning center and early childhood centers. Soon we'll have a 32nd school building. Thanks to our community support for building a better future, there will be a new elementary school that will be built in the very northwest corner of the district, and that is set at this time to open in the fall of 2026. So if you look at all of our school buildings, they all are between 24 and 100 years old. So the sizes of each building varies quite a bit from the different time periods in which they were built, correct? So some were created with capacity level differences amongst the entire district. We just have, some are smaller, some are larger. So this is most noticeable at our elementary level. So the more older schools tend to be smaller, and the newer schools are a little larger. So the school buildings were also placed where community growth was being experienced at that time, during the different areas and space available. So in a general sense, Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center to be more established neighborhoods right now. And then we have Maple Grove, Dayton, and Plymouth are our sites that are growing more. So just one last fun fact, because you really don't care if we'll say it. All the school buildings spread out on 703 acres of land for Osseo Area Schools. So next, our goal is always we work for you. There's an old Under Armour commercial that's called We Must Respect This House. This is your house, this is your district, we listen to you, and we have strong community support that shows that. So it's important for us to know that our community members feel that you like what we're doing and we're going to continue working towards that goal. So 82% of survey respondents say good or excellent on how well the quality of our school district is. 87% or all of or most of our student needs are being met, and 84% say they're proud of our schools and would recommend it to others. That's not enough for us. We will keep continuing, and for you to understand, we work for you. That is why we're here. So what is an attendance boundary? Let's get into it, right? That's why you came in on this evening. So some of the lingo or the terms we're using to share about this change can be confusing. So we want to make sure that everyone understands that. We want to make sure it's clear, understandable as you interact with this information. So it's again, what exactly is an attendance boundary? An attendance boundary is a geographical area which students are eligible to attend in a school district. This means your household address is assigned to an elementary, a middle, and a high school. So in essence, this process may change to elementary, middle school your household is currently set to attend. So a quick note, students may be moved between school buildings within the district, but attendance boundary changes will not impact which students are assigned to attend Osseo schools versus surrounding area schools like Anoka, Hennepin, Whiteside, or Robbinsdale. So what that means, because we touch so many cities, if your address is currently in one of those addresses, you will still attend those schools in another district. So this only obtains to those Osseo area schools that have an address within our Osseo area schools. So why do we need to change? What's occurring? Why is this happening right now? So the simplest way to be able to explain that is it has to do where our students are going and what our students can hold. So this can obviously change from year to year and decade to decade. So we have an Enrollment Capacity and Management Advisory Committee, or it's called ECMAC. And this is not, a lot of districts have this, and this is a really stellar committee that we have, and we have had it for years. So their goal is to monitor enrollment shifts in conjunction with our school building capacities for the last several years. Their most recent reports that they have detailed significant enrollment imbalances that exist across our district. Specifically, there is significant growth in our northwest portions of the district, and there's future housing and redevelopment are expected in those same areas. So in addition to this, there are also some districts, schools that are under capacity. So ECMAC helped to form the 2023 Our Build a Better Future referendum, And there was a Building a Better Future Oversight Task Force as well that agreed with our ECMAC's suggestions. An additional facility space became a part of the 2023 referendum as a result. So again, we want to thank our community support for that Building a Better Future. I thought that was mine. Okay, Building a Better Future. Isn't it funny how we Johnson sounds like, ooh, who is it? So again, we want to thank everyone from the bottom of our hearts for supporting our Building a Better Future, as we will end up having part of that, a new elementary school, in addition to Maple Grove Senior High School, were approved to address those space constraints. So next, why attendance boundaries need changing? All right, so looking once again, as we stated before, looking at the 2023 Building a Better Future referendum, it was additionally noted that attendance boundary changes were needed no matter what the outcome of that last referendum was going to be. With additional facility space being added with the community referendum support, attendance boundary changes, thankfully, will be limited to just elementary and middle schools and impact fewer families than promised. So just to be clear, it means there are no changes being made at the high school level. No changes made at the high school level. So we understand that communities, of course we all do make lots of decisions based on your household school assignment. So this process is not something we want to do often. In fact, the last time that Osseo Area Schools had to do a boundary change was 15 years ago, since the last one was done. So we come to a point where now it's needed to be done again. So what's the timeline? What are we working on for this? This attendance boundary change actually kicked off this fall. So at that time, our community members had an opportunity to provide their thoughts on the parameters. Well, how will we decide to go about it, and what do we need to do for this attendance boundary change? So also there was a core team that was established to help us create proposed scenarios, and you'll see 4 of those this evening. So nearly 3,000 community members participated in giving us thoughts on what should be our parameters for setting up attendance boundaries for this change. And they're now called our community built parameters, which we'll go through momentarily. So since late September, this attendance boundary change core team has been utilizing those community built parameters to develop the scenarios that you'll see today. So tonight you'll be seeing those 4. But between now, April, and May, we will be reviewing the community feedback and considering adjustment to those scenarios. So once again, I want to let you know what's there is not the end result. Your voice matters. So we are looking forward to hearing from you. So it's early this afternoon, just under 300 community members have already shared additional thoughts on the boundary changes. So tonight will just be an additional opportunity to add on to that. So the final attendance boundaries are expected to be announced by the end of the school year. The new attendance boundaries, however, will not go into effect until fall of 2026. Nothing is occurring, but we just wanted to make sure we had enough leeway to have input from our parents, be transparent, gather information, adjust as we need to, give you the opportunity again, gather information and adjust and let parents and everyone know by the end of the year without any movement into fall of 2026. So the new attendance boundaries won't go into effect until then, and the only exception to this is Crestview Elementary. These families will make their moves in the fall of 2025, and we'll explain why. Our Building a Better Future plan shared that the elementary school will be repurposed, and it's going to be repurposed to serve pre-K grades, enrichment, community-based programs, and we're continuing to gather more input on that school. So after much research and consideration, Crestview Elementary School was the school chosen to do that. So Crestview's kindergarten through grade 5, students and staff will be moving schools in the fall of 2024 and the start of 25-26 school year. So that's just the one school that was done differently. That school will only need to move once. Those students will not need to move in the fall of 2026 because their adjustment will be happening because that building is being repurposed, that those students and families will move into their new site in the fall of 2025. So you likely put these two pieces together with the 2026 timeline matches with the opening of the new school in the Northwest Maple Grove. So at this time, I'm going to turn this over to John Morstad, our Executive Director of Finance and Operation, to walk us through the parameters and proposed scenarios.
Thank you, Dr. Howe. Okay, so we're going to start by talking about the community of parameters that the core team worked on to create the proposed scenarios we're going to show you in just a minute. So here you have the list. I'll go over them really quickly. First of all, center our core values: honor, integrity, belonging, inclusion, innovation, excellence, transparency, and intrinsic value. Ensure scenarios can function within our system, including but not limited to transportation, building utilization and capacity, enrollment both current and future, teaching and learning program offerings, and financial costs. Ensure scenarios have longevity in our system. Follow the teacher-student class targets that were established by the school board. Consider the number of students impacted for each scenario, and consider student demographics of each scenario. A few more. Consider connecting more schools level to level, meaning elementary students move together to middle schools more frequently than we do today. Keeping neighborhoods intact as much as possible. Minimizing non-contiguous or non-adjoining areas. If you're not sure what that means, think of here's your boundary, and then there's a chunk that's not connected to it that gets picked up and brought over. It's trying to minimize or eliminate that. Maintain the 0.8 of a mile elementary and 1 mile secondary walk zone for transportation service areas. Maintain safety standards in regard to bus routing, avoiding major highways and so forth. Avoid lengthy travel time on buses. And comply with state laws, school board policy, and negotiated agreements. So as you can see, this is a pretty thorough list of parameters that was established. And as we review the 4 proposed scenarios, you may notice that some of the parameters are adhered to in more scenarios than others. So we're doing our best, but we also want to make sure there's differences in the scenarios to provide more room for feedback. Okay, so just a reminder, in a few minutes we're going to go through the 4 specifics on the scenarios. As Dr. Howe mentioned, you will have an opportunity to provide feedback and ask questions in the small group portion of tonight's event, which is after the presentation. So in the meantime, if you do have a question that comes up, please just jot down your comments. I know there's paper and stuff around at the tables, and make sure that you have that, and then we'll get to that in those small groups. Quick overview of the proposed scenarios. Bullet points 2 and 3 mention specific groups of students that would be impacted as noted in the community growth parameters. This was looked at for all scenarios, and this is just a snapshot. So between 1,800 and 3,700 elementary and middle school students would move, which is approximately 8 to 18% of our total student enrollment. Again, Dr. Howe mentioned high school students are not impacted in any of these scenarios, as we promised we would not move those boundaries. Racial demographics of schools wouldn't change by more than 5% in the majority of cases. Poverty demographics also wouldn't change by more than 5% in the majority of cases. Okay, here's what you've been waiting for. Here's scenario number 1. And I want to start by explaining each map to ground everybody so we're looking at it the same. You're looking at a map that is a combination of middle school and elementary. Middle school is based on color. So orange, the orange area goes to Osseo Middle, the red area goes to Maple Grove Middle, the green area to Northview Middle, the blue area to Brooklyn Middle. Well, within each color group, you will see the proposed attendance boundaries for the elementary schools that feed that particular middle school. Now you'll also see that some elementary schools, in this case 1, has a purple hashtag color to it. Those schools are proposed to split to more than 1 middle school. One of the goals in the parameters was to reduce the number of elementary schools that split students to different middle schools. To give you a reference, today we have 7 elementary schools that split to multiple middle schools. In this scenario, we're proposing 1. Approximately 3,000 students, and the other piece of the map, if you notice the hatched area, there's a little breakout down to the bottom left of the map that shows you the specifics of that hatched area. So in this scenario, it's Edinbrook Elementary that would split to 2 different middle schools, being Northview Middle to the south and Brooklyn Middle to the north. And so each of those sections, as we go through the four, will kind of show you where those breakouts are. Approximately 3,000 elementary middle school students would be impacted in scenario number one. Some of the strengths of this scenario are its building use of efficiency, elimination of non-adjoining geographic areas, and an improved feeder-like structure as students would move with classmates from elementary to middle, again, in all but one building. Neighborhoods would remain mostly intact as more natural boundaries like major roadways, parks, creeks, and lakes are utilized. All but one school building, Cedar Island, is within its own attendance boundary. Cedar Island is just across the street from where its predominant attendance boundary is. This means that students closest to each school would be able to attend that school and potentially even walk there. Middle school, non-adjoining geographic areas that currently exist in Northview Middle School would be eliminated. All school buildings would be within their own attendance boundary. So again, students closest to each school would have the ability to attend there and potentially walk. Moving to scenario number two. So again, color scheme the same, but we'll carry on this particular scenario. So this is built to provide a more minimal change while still meeting as many parameters as possible. Approximately 2,100 elementary and middle students would be impacted in this scenario. Some of the strengths of this scenario are the low number of changes, functionality within our system, including efficiencies with building use and transportation services, elimination of non-adjoining geographic areas, and an improved feeder-like structure as students would move with classmates from elementary to middle school. This scenario, I didn't mention this on the first one, the first scenario, this scenario, would both last for the foreseeable future. So we wouldn't anticipate boundary changes would be needed again for longer than any of us will be around. The elementary school neighborhoods would remain mostly intact as more natural borders, again, highways, parks, creeks, and lakes are utilized. All school buildings would be within their own attendance boundary. This means students closest again to each school would be able to attend there and potentially walk if they're inside the walk zone. Only one elementary school would split to multiple middle schools in this situation, again, Edinburgh. Middle school, non-adjoining geographic areas currently exist in Northview would be eliminated. All school buildings would be within their own attendance boundary, and more students close to that school would be able to attend and potentially walk. So we're going to move to scenario number three. This is a little more aggressive scenario, and the one that moves the most number of students. This proposal moves 3,700 students at the middle and elementary level. Some of the strengths of this scenario are building use efficiency and elimination of the non-adjoining geographical areas, and then, again, improved feeder-like structure, although here we're going to two schools that have a split rather than one in the first two proposals. Again, more classmates would be able to follow from elementary to middle school. This scenario is also, would also last for the foreseeable future. Elementary school neighborhoods would mostly be intact, again, following the natural borders. All but one school building at the elementary level, again, being Cedar Island, would be within its own attendance boundary. This means, again, students closer to that school can walk. A few more are eligible for within that attendance boundary to either be able to walk to school or go to the closest school to them. I mentioned the two elementary schools that would split. Little different changes at the middle school. Capacity issues at the middle school level are addressed. Non-adjoining geographical areas that currently exist near Northview would be eliminated. However, 3 middle schools would be within the Northview Middle School attendance boundary. So right now, that would remove the ability of some students who live very close to a middle school to be able to attend their neighborhood middle school. Moving to the last scenario, this is scenario number 4. This scenario moves the least number of students. This moves approximately 1,800 students. The strength of this scenario is the low number of its changes. However, because it moves the fewest number of students, new middle school attendance boundaries would need to be readdressed by the fall of 2028. So from an elementary standpoint, it would last for the foreseeable future. But from a middle school standpoint, we're really just kicking the can 3 years or so. Elementary, this is very similar. It's the same scenario, scenario 2 at the elementary level, but the feeder-like structure as students move from elementary to middle school is not as improved. As you see here, there are 3 elementaries that split between middle schools. I'll explain why in just a minute. This means students closest to each school would be able to attend and potentially walk there. The 3 elementary schools that split are Edenbrook, Parkbrook, and Fair Oaks. At the middle school level, this is similar to scenario 2. The only difference here is that we would keep 2 of the 3 non-adjoining, non-contiguous areas that currently exist at Northview Middle School. All but 1 building, Brooklyn Middle, falls within its own attendance boundary, and it's right across the street from its line in this scenario. That means students closest to each school would be able to attend and potentially walk. There is another page, and we'll show you, we have the 4 scenarios up, but there's a 5th board. The 5th board is showing the middle school for scenario 4 only, to show you where those non-contiguous areas are so you can better see. Again, following the same color scheme that we mentioned earlier. It's very similar to our current middle school boundaries. There are still sections within Northview that would go to Osseo Middle and Maple Grove Middle. However, as I mentioned, this is a short-term solution, and we would need to propose additional boundary changes at the middle level no later than the fall of 2028. Okay, so now that you've seen the 4 scenarios, I'm sure you have a common question, starting with how does this affect me? It's kind of hard to look on a map, especially if you're in a pretty close to a boundary. So we have a solution for that for you. You can see the QRs up here. To help you with that, please check out the boundary website, or utilizing these QRs will take you to an interactive map for each of the proposed scenarios, where you can type in your address, and then it will tell you specifically, this is your elementary school, this is your middle school, this is your high school. It's going to ask you to verify. So when you put your address in, it's going to ask you to verify when your house pops on the map, is this where the house belongs? You say yes, it will tell you which 3 schools. There are 4 different ones because there are 4 of these interactive tools, 1 for each scenario. So you can see, hey, this is how scenario 1 affects me, this is how scenario 2 affects me, if there's a difference. Again, the website for the district is district279.org/boundaries. We do have Chromebooks available over on the table to my left tonight. If you would like to take a look or utilize that option, those are set up for you. I want to take a few minutes to go through some very common, frequently asked questions. More questions can, of course, be asked in your small groups, and there is a more extensive list of frequently asked questions available on the website. As new attendance, boundaries will be determined more than a year ahead of their implementation. Be kind of hold harmless, so where students within their school district boundaries can stay at their current assigned school will not be an option. I should clarify that. So within today, if you're in school A as your boundary school and your boundary changes, but you didn't move, you're going to be assigned to a new school. There are some scenarios that come up, and I'll go through that here. So some FAQs on in-district transfer and open enrollment. Just start with a quick reminder, there's a difference between those 2 things. So in-district transfer provides our current community residents, people who live within our outer district boundary, the ability to transfer between some of our schools. Open enrollment allows students from outside our outer boundary to attend our schools. Open enrollment is a statewide offering and thus has specific requirement processes. Current in-district transfer or open enrollment students can remain at their chosen sites if they desire. Applications do not need to be refilled out for this. School board procedure prohibits a district from offering in-district transfer to impacted schools during attendance boundary transition years. This means new in-district transfer requests will not be allowed at district elementary or middle schools until the completion of the 27-28 school year. Doing this enables our district to see the most accurate representation of the changes that were proposed and helps us to better evaluate the success and long-term efficiency of the boundary changes. A few more frequently asked questions. So current restricted in-district transfer and open enrollment schools. Thank you. Will remain in place. So current restrictions will remain in place until a review has been completed, which will happen no later than today in 2027, January 15th of 2027, which will be in time for any new in-district transfer requests for the 27-28 school year. Fernbrook is a great example of this. That building has been tight for quite some time, and we need to see how the new changes are going to be supported there through a full school year. Busing information that goes along with these changes will be shared, as it usually is, in the regular back-to-school session or season. So for fall of 26 implementation, expect to see communication in August of 2026. Likely it will be searchable online prior to this. Lots more answers to frequently asked questions have been added to the Boundary website, and please feel free to check that out at the same website, district279.org/boundaries. And at this time, I'm going to turn it back to Dr. Kim Heil to talk about transition and feedback opportunities.
All right, thank you. We're almost to the point where we're going to let you get busy and start to gather input. So once again, our district greatly appreciates your flexibility in working with these changes. So please know our entire Osseo Area School District team is ready here to make this transition go as smoothly as possible. So we're all partners for our babies and our scholars and to make it smooth as we can. So all of our schools, of course, will be very welcoming to all of our students in the fall of 2026. And for any questions that you have, reach out to your schools, reach out to the district. There's no point where you can't reach out and give us your voice. So we want to make sure you understand that. Also, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach to our hotlines as well at Build a Better Future at district279.org or at the phone number 763-399-8990, and you can reach out to that at any time. Okay, so what we're waiting for, let's get busy, right, for that feedback portion of the evening. So as I shared, community voice is very important to us. There are two ways that you can provide feedback. So option one is to go to your assigned small group. There's a color on your name tag that matches the small group you're assigned to. And then each facilitator of a small group will hold up the color for that group, so you can go to that assigned group. Feel free to go to our check-in table at the entrance if they'll get you set up for that if you don't have it. The second way, of course, that you can provide feedback is to utilize the QR code on the screen and fill out the Google form via the website. We want to do it where you feel most comfortable in sharing your voice. So all of your feedback, whether via your group that you're in or the form that is filled out, will be reviewed by our core team in the next coming weeks. Adjustments will be made as a result of your feedback. So new proposed scenarios are expected to be shared in March, and at that time, once again, you'll have the opportunity to provide feedback. So please make sure you stay tuned for those next future steps. So again, here are multiple ways to stay informed during the process. Refer to district279.org/boundaries for the latest. Parent and caregivers can stay tuned to regular updates via email and text. All our community members can also connect with these following hotlines. So thank you again for coming tonight, and we'll help and your help with making these needed changes the best we can. We do have two school board members that have come. So we have Director Kelsey Dawson, who is here at the school board meeting, and Director as well, Erica Foster, that's here, who will be reporting to. Hey! And Director Keith Tate is here as well. So we have several people here for you, so as you go to your table, we will try our best to give you the answers that you need, and if you don't have it, we'll make sure we get that answer to you. So next steps, are we going to have people hold up cards here?
Go ahead.
Okay.